Today I am playing musical hammers, or perhaps I should say we are playing a game of 3 Hammer Monty, because you never know where they're going to end up. The bull hammer that is now sitting out in the outer part of the shop near the shear and the Marvel bandsaw used to be right where I'm standing. Ultimately, I would like to put the treadle hammer pretty much here, but the 25-pound Little Giant is in the way. So to put the treadle hammer here, I first have to move the treadle hammer out of the way so I can move the 25-pound Little Giant behind where the treadle hammer is, and then bring the treadle hammer back over to this side. It sounds complicated, but it's really not that bad, although I think by the time I'm done this will be an all-day job. Took most of the morning just to cut the bull hammer loose from its mountings. Took most of the morning just to pry up the bull hammer, cut the bolts off so I could slide the hammer off over the top of the stubs of the bolts, and on rollers very slowly inch it across the shop floor. But now it's over there and it's done, and I'm not going to move it again until somebody buys it. So hopefully somebody's going to want to buy it. And that of course leaves this afternoon to move the Little Giant and the treadle hammer and hopefully get them close to where I want them in the long run. I'm not ready to bolt them down yet because I need to do some other things and I might still need to move them around, but they will be within a foot or so of their final resting place when I'm all through for the day. In past moves, this has been pretty easy to get up off the ground and get onto the rollers. But these are epoxied in anchor bolts, and I'm afraid there might be some epoxy squeezed up into the hole around the bolts, gluing the Little Giant to the floor. Now I can actually see the height of the bolt change in that, so the hammer has risen up some. Oh yeah. Much better. Now I should be able to get a pry bar in here. Now before we go too far with this, I want to clarify that I am not providing instructions on how to move heavy machinery. This is a technique I've used for years. I have moved all of these machines many times doing it this way, and I've never had any problem. But it is a very dangerous thing to do. This machinery is heavy. It can easily tip over. A lot of it is somewhat top heavy. You really should get help, or better yet, hire a professional moving crew to move things like this. I don't recommend doing this by yourself. It's just something I'm used to. I'm accustomed to it. It's probably not the best practice. So don't use this as a guide for how to move machinery. If you want to learn how to move this stuff, find somebody that's comfortable doing it and learn from them. It's not something you can learn from a YouTube video. So get help, get instruction, or hire somebody to do it. Well, I think this is where I want the little giant in the long run. I'm going to have to wait until I get some other stuff put in before I'm absolutely sure, so I am not going to bolt it down. And I don't think the concrete has cured long enough that I want to be running a power hammer on it yet. So I'm going to wait about a week before I use the little giant again, and I'm going to get everything else moved. Then I'll decide if it's in the right place or not. The next thing I have to do is cut off all the bolt stubs that I left after moving the hammer up out of the way. It's a lot easier to cut them off at the base of the hammer than it is to try and get under the hammer and try and cut them off. That's a real nuisance. So I need to cut these off so I don't trip over them. Then the treadle hammer has to move over there, and we'll see what all this looks like. Stuff's a lot easier to roll if there's not a bunch of junk on the slab when you roll it. The top of the ram keeps hitting the rafters. It actually has to go up between two rafters when it's set in place. So once again, I would like to remind you that this video is not a how-to, it's a how-did. In other words, how did I accomplish this task? If you're looking to move big heavy equipment, get help, get instruction from somebody that you know, that you trust, that knows how to do this. Don't do it based on the little tiny bit I showed you in a YouTube video. You're going to get a 10-minute video here. It took me all day to move this stuff, being very careful and very particular about how I placed rollers, where I pushed, where I pried, and none of that is covered in the video. So make sure you work with somebody that knows how to do this if you're going to try and move heavy equipment by yourself. Better yet, get 3 or 4 people, or again, hire a crew. I know that I might sound like a broken record, but I don't want anybody to get hurt. So what got done today? A lot got done today. It was slow going. It was methodical, but I accomplished exactly what I wanted to accomplish, and that is all of the hammers that currently exist are out of my way, and the ones that are staying are close to where I'm going to want them. The treadle hammer is now pretty much where the bowl hammer used to be, but because of the new addition I can push it back and open up my walk space a little bit, and it's pushed back far enough that a bar run across the fly press will pass in front of the die of the treadle hammer, so I can still run long bars through the fly press. If I move the treadle hammer forward just a couple of inches, it might block that option off. I would then have to move it forward quite a bit so it would pass behind the die. So I think I like that location for the treadle hammer. The little giant is back in the corner of the new addition, and I think I'm going to like that option there. It will allow me to run a little bit longer bar through without hitting the wall than what I did when it was 90 degrees to the wall. Gives me just that little bit extra space, although it was never really an issue. And it will allow me to run a bar clear back into the room if I'm working the end of a very long bar, and gives me a little bit more workspace on the sides than what I had before. And of course the bull hammer is moved to the outer part of the shop near the big door where we can get the skid loader in and lift it and put it in somebody's truck if somebody feels sorry for it and wants it to follow them home. In this space right here, of course, is where the new Say-Mak hammer will go. That foundation is about 8 feet long, so this part that I'm kneeling on has to be taken out. I'm going to saw cut it as deep as I can, which won't get all the way through it, and then I'll probably jackhammer it out. Although somebody recommended making multiple saw cuts, so maybe I can cut it out in sections and then saw cut the next layer and maybe stair step my way down that way and make a neater job of it. I definitely want it to be neat because I want to be able to isolate this foundation from everything else so that any vibration from the Say-Mak goes right to the ground and doesn't transfer to the other foundation or other parts of the shop or to the structure and rattle stuff off the walls, because that gets really annoying. That was a mistake I made with the bull hammer, that this was one solid pour. Even though it was 18 inches deep where the bull hammer was, it still rattled stuff on the far ends because it was all attached. So if I isolate this, it'll be a lot better. But that's my next big step, and I suspect that that's going to be another long, dusty, filthy day. Sawing and jackhammering concrete doesn't sound like much fun. I don't think we'll show very much of that on video. I'll let you know the day I do it, but it's not going to be right away. I've got other plans around here this weekend, so that also means there may not be quite as many videos this weekend. So if you miss a few days, it's just because I'm busy. I didn't keel over dead because of all the hard work. In fact, the hard work's probably good for me. I need the exercise. So I hope that just gives you a little idea of the work that is involved if you decide to rearrange all the big heavy equipment in your shop. Again, get professional help or professional advice before undertaking a task like this yourself. Hope you enjoyed the video and give it a thumbs up. Love it if you hit that subscribe button. As always, I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop and make something. But stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.